Okay, so let's take a look at physiologically while we breathe. Many people think that we breathe to get oxygen in. That's actually not the case. So in order to understand what the case is, we need to understand how we're using the oxygen. And in order to understand that, we need to understand cellular respiration. So we take glucose and oxygen, and through cellular respiration, we produce carbon dioxide, and water, and a form of energy. Okay, let's get a little more technical. Glucose, C6H12O6, plus oxygen is going to give you CO2 plus H2O plus ATP. Now, ATP is the reason that we do cellular respiration, because the energy that's stored in glucose is only usable in small packets. And by going through cellular respiration in the mitochondria, aerobic cellular respiration using oxygen, we can then harness the energy in the stored molecules, in the bonds of glucose, and release lots of ATP. Okay, well, in the process of doing that, we're going to produce CO2 and water. So let's see what happens when CO2 and water hang out together. So here's CO2 and water, and when they combine, they form H2CO3, which is carbonic acid. Carbonic acid quickly splits apart to form HCO3 minus and another substance. Okay, so let's balance this equation. All right, first let's look from here to here. Here is one carbon over here, one carbon over here, balanced. 1, 2, 3 oxygens over here, 1, 2, 3 oxygens over here, balanced. One hydrogen over here, one hydrogen over here, balanced. Good deal. Okay, I'm going to use a different pen color now. I don't want to confuse you. And let's look at this equation from here to here in the green region. Okay, so we have two hydrogens over here, one hydrogen over here. Okay, that means that this guy here must be a hydrogen, because in order for us to have two hydrogens on this side of the arrow, we need to have two hydrogens on this side of the arrow. As far as carbon dioxide goes, as far as carbon goes, geez, one carbon here, one carbon there, balanced. 1, 2, 3 oxygens here, 1, 2, 3 oxygens here, balanced. This guy needs to be balanced out as well, which is why this hydrogen has to be charged, +1 charge. Well, if we take a hydrogen atom and we take away an electron from it, it becomes H+. If you take an electron away from a hydrogen atom, the only thing left is a proton, because hydrogen has only one proton and one electron, no neutrons. So if you take that electron away, we now call this a proton. So this guy here is a proton. If you remember from biology, we have a scale from 0 to 14. It's the pH scale. pH stands for puissance of hydrogen. Puissance means power in French. So what happens is the more H pluses you have, the closer you are to a pH of 0. Conversely, the more OH minuses you have, the closer you are to a pH of 14. If you recall from biology, these folks down here are acids. On this end of the scale over here by 14, these are bases. Okay, over here for the pH of 0, we have pure H pluses. So this means that if we allow these H pluses, these protons, to build up in our bloodstream and within our cells, our pH will be closer to 0. Well, neutral is 7. Why is it neutral? Because we have an equal number of H pluses, brackets mean concentration. So at pH of 7, the concentration of H pluses is equal to the concentration of OH minuses. Okay? That means that if we have one H plus over here, we've got an OH minus over here. Hey, these two should look familiar. When these folks combine, we have HOH plus minus forms H2O. This is why the pH of water is 7. It's neutral. Okay, well now back to here. Here's the problem. The more H pluses we have over here, the closer we go down to 0. The pH of your arteries should be between 7.35 and 7.45. It's a very, very narrow range. So anything that brings us lower than 7.35, let's say 7.3, makes your blood more acidic. Not good. As well, anything that pushes you above 7.45, let's say 7.5, that pushes you in this direction towards bases. That is not good as well. So the moral of the story here, in order to keep us within this normal range here of 7.35 to 7.45, we need to control how much H pluses we have in our bloodstream. Well, in order to do that, all we've got to do is get rid of this CO2. Because if we get rid of CO2, it can't combine with water to form carbonic acid and break apart to form this substance here, which I forgot to tell you. This is bicarbonate. That's bicarbonate. So if we get rid of the CO2, it can't combine with water to form carbonic acid to split apart to form bicarbonate and H pluses. So we need to get rid of CO2. How do we do that? We exhale. If you don't exhale, you can't get rid of CO2 and you're driving your blood pH closer to 0. So the reason that is dangerous is, think about cooking. When you have a tough piece of meat or tough chicken, you probably want to marinate it overnight. Well, when you marinate chicken or meat, very often we use stuff like lemon, lime, Italian dressing, which has vinegar. All of those three substances are acidic. And I don't know if you remember from biology, but if you take proteins and you dunk them into acid, they denature. That means the proteins, the quaternary structure of proteins, breaks down. They split apart permanently. So basically, what I'm saying in closing is, if we don't get rid of this CO2, you're basically tenderizing your body from the inside out. And that would be bad. Okay?